Good evening, this is Left, Right and Centre. I'm Nidhi Razdan. Tonight there is tension and massive protests in parts of the Kashmir Valley as a class 11 student has been killed in firing by security forces. Is the valley on the boil again? Also tonight as Delhi kicks off Odd Even 2.0, are we really ready to have it on a more permanent basis? Has Arvind Kejriwal shifted the goalpost from reducing pollution to reducing congestion? That's coming up in just a few minutes. But first, the big story today have been the clashes that have taken place across parts of North Kashmir following the deaths earlier this week of 4 people in firing that took place by security forces. Well, today there was another casualty. A class 11 boy was killed in firing by security forces yet again in Kupwara in North Kashmir. There are reports of tension across many parts of the valley this evening. This includes in Baramulla, in the Ganderbal district, as well as in Srinagar and Kupwara itself. These are the pictures that we've just managed to get from Kupwara earlier today, where also we have had reports of a strike call that was given in protest against the killings that had taken place earlier this week. Well, certainly a very tense situation there. We've got Wajahat Habibullah joining us tonight from Lucknow. Mr. Habibullah served for many years as a senior bureaucrat in Jammu and Kashmir. We also have Mr. M.M. Khajuria, retired DGP from JNK, and will be joined shortly by Mr. A.S. Dullat, who of course was the former chief of the RNAW. Mr. Habibullah, to you first. Quite a worrying situation, isn't it? We've seen a spate now of killings in this week alone. At least 5 young people killed in firing by security forces.
Yes, not only worrying, most distressing. I was in Kashmir last week. I travelled from Srinagar to Baramulla by train. I travelled around in a taxi all the way to Kurgam. It was entirely peaceful, so calm. I wandered around the villages and cities without any security at all. It was so calm, so peaceful. I really feel that this is a terribly tragic development that has happened in North Kashmir. And as you have been reporting earlier, there has been trouble in South Kashmir. There was trouble in Pulwama and in Anantnag. I, of course, didn't find any when I was there. But now that this has affected North Kashmir, most distressing, most distressing.
Mr. Dullat joins us as well tonight. Mr. Dullat, how do you look at these developments that we are seeing? As in fact Wajahat Habibullah rightly pointed out, we've actually been seeing a lot of worrying scenes from South Kashmir. Now you've had these killings in North Kashmir, and I'm hearing today of protests in various parts of the valley, including in parts of Srinagar, which haven't seen protests for several years. Do you fear that we're turning back to a point that almost looks like 2010?
Yeah, just as Wajahat said, it's extremely distressing because till about a week ago things seemed to be all right. But one gets the impression, this has been developing over the last 5-7 days, and the impression one gets is everything is out of control. There's nobody in control, there's no authority, there's no accountability, and 4 killings earlier. And again, very unfortunate that there has to be a firing today. And this is, from what I understand, this is a rural area. So what is the provocation for firing in a rural area? I mean, we seem to have got stuck totally in a security paradigm when the whole valley is protesting. There's civil curfew last couple of days. And I don't know where the Chief Minister is. The impression I get is that, she is extremely reluctant Chief Minister.
Well,
I think what Kashmir is craving right now is Mufti Saab's healing touch.
Well, but politics aside, I do want to first ask Mr. Khajuria that I know that security forces are also in a very difficult situation while, being stationed in these areas, and very often they get attacked by mobs. They have stones thrown at them. Sometimes, much worse that also happens. What is the standard operating procedure supposed to be, sir, in a situation like this? And one of the things many people ask is why are there not rubber pellets that are used to fire at protesters instead of real bullets?
See, first thing we have to recognize is what is happening is not a chain of stray incidents. These are incidents either contrived or blown out of proportion and distorted. And the objective is to put the valley again on the boil. Once we understand the basic objective of the enemy, then we can think of other alternatives. As far as using rubber bullets, another thing is concerned. In most of the cases, the attacks have been in such a manner that, take the instance for instance today. The attack was on an RR company headquarters, and the crowd came pelting stones, and with the result that ultimately they had to use firearms. Basically, there are two things that have to be understood. The first dimension is the mischief potential and the planning that has gone into the objective that are set for us. Second is our response of the security forces. Unfortunately, on both accounts, we have not come up very brightly. In the first place, we don't really have enough intelligence as we should have, nor is enough force on patrolling so that they can reach the point of distress and ensure that the army picket or whatever is not surrounded and they're not forced to resort to firing. And nor are we engaging the civil society and the young youth to stay away from mischief, because these crowds comprise primarily of three elements. One, hardcore, who have come to do the mischief. Second, who come for kicks. And third are those who come just to watch. And mostly the third category people who get killed. So but therefore, if they continue, administration and the politician must engage the civil society. And lastly, the firing, if it all becomes inevitable, must be controlled, and it must be ensured there is fire below the girth, so that there are no fatalities.
I know it's a very difficult situation, and I'll take this back to Mr. Dulat. Mr. Dulat, do you believe that, security forces need to find a way to relook at how, they're going to manage mobs like this? Is that even possible at all, when, for instance, an army post is suddenly besieged, by a large mob that could be trying to set it on fire or throwing stones at it, possibly using young, kids, as part of the crowd? And do you also believe the bigger problem is accountability? That when these things happen, I think a lot of disillusionment in the valley stems from the fact that very few officials are then actually held accountable for these killings, whether it is in the army or the police.
You see, I can understand firing by the security forces in Srinagar, where protests can get out of control and property may be damaged or whatever. But in an outlying village, I'm told that this place is Drugmul, and there was 95% voting there in the last election. So what is the need for so much security force there? What possibly could any protest, what could they have done? Why do we want to provoke the civilians?
But what do you do, Mr. Dulat, if you have a crowd that also lays siege to an army post? Now, for instance, you had this young woman, who there was this story that was spread that that she was allegedly molested. Now, she doesn't seem to indicate that happened, but everything quickly went out of control. So we don't know the circumstances in what happened in Handwara earlier this week. But is there any way to change the standard operating procedure in these situations?
I'm not going back to the case of the alleged molestation of a young girl, which in any case she denied. But I'm talking of today's incident. As I understand it, this is in a rural area after the Friday namaz. And if some boys start pelting stones, I don't think the right response is for the security forces to fire. Because again, you've injured 3 or 4 people.
Wajahat Habibullah,
and this will lead to greater demonstrations and protests.
Absolutely, Wajahat Habibullah, that is the worry now, because we've seen this spiral from what happened earlier this week in Handwara to all these protests that have taken place over the last couple of days, and more firing today. 7 people injured in firing today. One, a little boy in class 11 who is dead. It's a very difficult situation, Wajahat Habibullah, and do you fear that this could really spread, that Kashmir is at that point again?
Of course, it has already spread. It has already spread. I was speaking to the Deputy Commissioner of Anantnag, who's just taken over yesterday, a very bright young man. And Anantnag is disturbed. He's been running around all day trying to control the situation. The whole valley is going to be disturbed. The point is that I wouldn't agree with Khajuria Sahab that, you see, that if this had happened, if this is the first incident, they suddenly had surrounded the RR encampment and they opened fire. But this has been going on for a few days. So you have to have a proper standing operating procedure now. And as was mentioned by Babas, 95% voting came out. Where are the political leaders? They should be there. The people who should be addressing the issue, I mean, you start off by firing? No. The district magistrates should be in the field. They should be talking to them. I can speak from my own experience as commissioner, and that is a very much more troubled situation, 1990, 91, 92, 93. I would go out myself and speak to people. You have to, there is a role for the political leadership and the civil administration. You asked, is there some change in procedure that we should have? Of course. The first recourse must be an approach by the civil administration, by the political authority if possible, but there are difficulties about that, but certainly by the civil administration. Where? In all these demonstrations, you don't see the civil administrator standing anywhere or talking to anybody. They have to play their role, and if all that fails, then the question of opening fire. And as Babas says, for throwing stones you open fire with live ammunition, it's disgraceful. It's not acceptable in a democracy, I'm sorry to say.